Warning, this content may be disturbing to some audiences. Subscribe. If you dare.
As the cashier, a girl named Tyler, rang them up, she sneered at me, "You know you're buying women's pants, right?" To which I replied, "You know you have a boy's name, right?" Hey everybody, welcome to ANECDOSED. People ask Reddit. What was your best comeback line that left the other person totally speechless?
Number 1.
At the hearing where my divorce was final, my ex-wife cleaned up. Got the house, the TV she took when she left that was mine, the TV I bought to replace it, half the money in savings, and I had to pay spousal support for 8 months and an exorbitant amount of child support. The only thing I got was half the credit card debt, $9K, and 8 of it was hers, and I had to pay for her dickbag attorney, another $2K. We walked out of the courtroom. Her slutty friend and bitch mom came for moral support. She walked up all smug and said, "How'd you like that?" Her entourage was smiling too. I replied, "They can take my house, my TV, and every penny I have, but they can't make me love you." Instantly the smiles changed to drop jaws. She looked at me like I kicked a cancer baby, and before anyone could speak I said good day and walked off. Then I went home and cried.
Number 2.
Commenter. My mother, "Your son is so much better behaved than you were as a child. You were horrible." Me, "Probably because my son has better parents." Person B. My wife, "You never have anything nice to say about my family." Me, "Well, your in-laws are a hell of a lot nicer than my in-laws."
Number 3.
While working at a paint store, my assistant manager was giving me grief because I wanted to get off early to go take a final. She said, when I was going to school and working, if there was ever a conflict between school and work, work always came first. I replied, "That's probably why you're still working here."
Number 4.
Commenter. Back in the late 60s I had very long hair and wore the flowery stuff that was the fashion, no onion in my belt though. Anyway, I was dating this girl whose mom hated me. After a snotty exchange I asked her what her problem with me was, and she said, "I think you are effeminate." I replied, "Compared to you, I guess I am." Person B. I'm a guy. One day I was out with my cousin and his girlfriend, who's pretty manly, and I said I needed to sit down cause my feet were hurting. She said, "Oh my god, you sound like such a effing girl." I replied with, "Yeah, at least one of us does."
Number 5.
My old boss when I worked as a welder on construction sites had a wild sense of humor. One day over lunch with the guys he asked me what I was up to that weekend coming up. I replied, "It's my birthday, I'm probably going out with friends." Then he asked me how old I was going to be. I replied 30. My boss, being funny, replied, "Well, it's all downhill from there," and since he was at least 20 years older than I was, I said, "Well, you ought to know, you have been on that climactic roller coaster drop for years." He then said, "I am a roller coaster ride baby." He was speechless and damn near fell over laughing when I said, "Just because some woman puked on you during intercourse, that does not designate you as a theme park ride."
Number 6.
Commenter. What are you? President of the Pedantic Society. Vice President, actually. Person B. A coworker at work was recently commenting on my pedanticism. I couldn't help it. I had to reply, "I know I'm not helping my case, but it's pedantry."
Number 7.
A girl called me fat during class once in high school. I replied, "Everyone knows I'm fat, it's not a secret. Nobody knew you were a bitch until you opened your mouth." Teachers from the room next door came to investigate the uproar it caused. The assistant principal warned me about my language. After laughing about it, parents laughed.
Number 8.
About 7 years ago, I went shopping with one of my sisters and my mom. I decided to buy some women's pants. I'm a guy, that fit me, and they only had that color in women's. As the cashier, a girl named Tyler, rang them up, she sneered at me, "You know you're buying women's pants, right?" To which I replied, "You know you have a boy's name, right?" This remark was met with applause from my mom and sister, another cashier, and the man behind us.
Number 9.
I was 8 or 9 at the time. My mother and I had to pay a brief visit to my biological father's mother. My biological father refused to pay child support for years. However, once in a while he would send money to his mom, so my mom and I had to travel for 4 hours to get it. Money was tight, so we just had to deal with it, and he knew it. It was one of his ways of trying to humiliate us, which was ridiculous because regardless of our financial hardship, Mom still raised me and took care of both of us and supported my grandparents, all on her income only. In Eastern Europe during some of the worst economic times. This which had been poisoning my mom's life from way before she divorced my biological father. Her favorite was treating my mother like a piece of shit throughout her pregnancy and afterwards, and telling her how it's okay, I'm not my father's daughter, and that him and his family would still take care of the bastard, me. Honestly, I wish we weren't related by blood, but neither of us stands a chance. So, my mom and I are sitting at her table, and this witch pulls out a couple of big bills and gives them to me, telling me how generous she is to spare some for me. I looked her square in the eye and said, "I'm sorry, but I just can't take money from a stranger." The look on her face was priceless. Mom got me ice cream on the way back.
Number 10.
BMQ, Canadian Military Basic Training, Room Inspection. Master Seaman, Private, my name, is this women's shaving cream? Me, yes, Master Seaman. It gave a better shave and I knew it'd be a good mind F. Master Seaman, do you shave your legs, Private? Me, no, Master Seaman. If it's good enough for my wife's pussy, it's good enough for my face, Master Seaman. That was the end of my inspection.
Number 11.
I'm a cook and was being told off by a waiter, who was probably mid-40s, for not showing enough respect. He was really angry and said some nasty things about us and cooks in general. I just looked him in the eyes and totally said, "At least I will be proud telling my grandchildren what I did with my life." He went pale and left the room. Guess I hit a nerve. My problem is I know what to say when shit goes down.
Number 12.
An ex-girlfriend that had broken up with me a few months prior called me to gloat that her new boyfriend had a big dick. Without skipping a beat, I said, "Well, that's good because you have a big vagina." We were both speechless. She stopped bothering me after that conversation.
Number 13.
Worked at Arby's when I was 16. The GM was talking to me about my college ambitions and telling me I was stupid to go to a 4-year school that would cost $50,000 a year. He was running his mouth about how he had only gone to college for 1 semester, at a party school, and asked why I wanted to go. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "So I don't have to be a manager at Arby's." He stopped mocking me after that.
Number 14.
My dad once introduced me to some of his friends with, "This is my son, he ain't worth a shit." I shrugged and responded with, "The apple doesn't fall far from the tree." Everyone, including my dad, was laughing too hard after that for anything else to be said.
Number 15.
Commenter. Got a text from my ex the other day. "Ex, you can delete my number from your phone. I honestly don't care anymore." Me, who is this? Person B. A long time ago, a shitty girlfriend of mine told me we needed to go on a break for a week so I could realize how much I really need her in my life. During that week I felt amazing and realized how much happier I was without her. I honestly didn't care anymore, so I just waited for her to talk to me, and it took about another week. I ended up telling her I don't care anymore and she treats me like shit, etc., and she says something like, "Okay, fine, what a waste of effing time, I had like 8 guys ask me out this week." Not even 24 hours later, she starts texting me and messaging me on every single form of communication asking me to forgive her and telling me how she's realized her faults and she just wants me back. She says something like, "These past 2 weeks I've missed you so much, it's been hell," and I replied saying it's already been 2 weeks.
Number 16.
Commenter. I was at the bank cashing a check I had received from helping tile a neighbor's house. The neighbor liked to go to a lot of strip clubs, and being from a small town the bank teller knew him, and evidently that fact. She looked at me, smiled, and asked if I wanted the check in ones, so that I could go out later. Insinuating frequenting a strip club, without missing a beat I replied, "Only if you'll be there." She blushed and everyone laughed. The teller handed me my money, flustered, and speechless. Person B. One time at breakfast I got a phone call from a nice young lady from my credit card company alerting me that there'd been a charge at 3 a.m. to a German explicit materials site, and that they were reversing the charge, and they apologized for the issue but wanted me to know that their security was second to none, and that, yeah, that was me. Full 10 seconds of silence on the line. Then this young lady made some excuses to finish the call, and the charge never showed up on my statement. I think she reversed the charge out of sheer embarrassment.
Number 17.
I was in the middle of an oral history report on George Washington. Usually, I don't give them in front of the class because I had a stutter, but my speech therapist encouraged me to take a leap of faith, so I told the teacher I could give it in class. I accidentally called him Thomas Jefferson because I was so nervous, and a rude girl in the back snickers and hollers, "I knew your brain was messed up." I replied, "www, well at least I have a B brain to mess up." A few of my classmates actually stood up to give me a standing ovation at the end of my report. Thinking about it still makes me tear up. And today I can mostly speak without stuttering, but it does still come out when I'm startled or anxious.
Number 18.
I was on a plane crossing the Pacific. The woman beside me was Chinese and started talking about the death penalty. I told her I didn't support it, but my understanding was that the US system was better to let 100 murderers go free than execute an innocent man. She started talking about how China was superior and actually said better to kill 100 innocent men than let one murderer go free. I pointed out that we still had about 10 hours of flight time remaining and that we should just agree to disagree and talk about something else. And then I stewed. And grumbled. And cussed under my breath. As we were landing in New Zealand, the somewhat stringent, to keep out pests, customs procedures were being explained, and Chinese lady started telling this story about being mistaken for a drug mule in Thailand. She was taken to a special room. They emptied out all her things from her luggage. They went through everything, including her private things. They started threatening to strip search her. We're taxiing now and she is continuing with the story. They gave her a really hard time. She was really upset, describing the ordeal. The fasten seat belts light went off. I stood up, grabbed my bag out of the overhead and said, "Better they searched you and 99 other innocent people than let one drug smuggler get through." And, as her jaw gaped, I turned and walked down the aisle. In my imagination, she is still sitting on that plane, on the apron in NZ, shocked. Since then, whenever a witty retort or comeback line occurs to me after the fact, I just say to myself, "It's okay. You got her."
Number 19.
When my friend was little, her sister always called her an accident because their parents said that they didn't plan on having her. Love her regardless though. Anyways, one day, after her sister had been repeatedly calling her an accident, she says to her, "I may have been the accident, but you were the mistake." Make sure to share your personal story in the comments below and have the opportunity to be featured in a future video. Also, if you like these topics, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button to continue seeing more content like this every day. See you next time.